Welcome to the Leveraged and Loving It podcast, business advice for coaches and thought leaders. And now your host, Renee Hasseldine.
Welcome back to Leveraged and Loving It. On today's episode, we are joined by Amanda Blennerhassett.
Hey.
Amanda is the founder of Brand Savvy Consulting. She's a multinational award-winning brand, marketing and business growth strategist, and I'm super, super pumped for her to be here today. Welcome to the show, Amanda.
Morning, Renee.
Morning. So today we're going to talk about how to harness your purpose for profit. And the word purpose is kind of used a lot in our circles. So let's how do we make sure it's not kind of cliched to start off?
I know it's, and I've been talking about this for about 7 years before it was a thing, but it now it's a thing. But purpose, purpose is just really about what drives us and fulfills us on a deeper level, because money in and of itself is not really that meaningful. Money comes and goes. So at the end of the day, we have within us an essence. I consider it like a unique blueprint, our own signature, and it has value. But a lot of people don't know how to express it, and they certainly haven't figured out a way to be able to commercialize it in a way that enables them to not only leave a bit of a mark in the world, but also to be able to live a sustainable life. So when I talk about purpose, that's what I'm talking about. It's really about the essence of our full expression.
Yeah, that's great. And I think, for those of us who've experienced work, business, careers without that meaningful, purpose that's deeper within us, we know what it's like to be without it. I think that's almost like the way almost to understand how important it is to experience not having it, isn't it?
Absolutely. And so many people who go into a purpose-led occupation or vocation start out that way. I did too. And I was always trying to find jobs where I could connect on some level to a sense of purpose, but certainly some of them were more meaningful than others. And after a while, I hit that same point of thinking, I feel like the problems of the world are getting bigger, and I want to be part of the solution and not a part of the problem.
Yes. I've definitely experienced waves of that, especially, political things happen in the world, and then my buttons are pushed and I'm like, okay, I need to be part of the solution.
Exactly. And it's also a really important experience, I think, in the process to go through that time where you work on things that aren't as meaningful, or that leave you with that uncomfortably empty feeling of like, there's got to be more to this. And that's a really important thing to know, because when you go off and start your own business and you go through a whole process of creativity that is creating something new, a business in the world, as you would well know, it's not a linear process. It goes through ups and downs. Markets change. You have to pivot and change with it. And, you have to know what you're heading towards and away from, so that you don't give up easily, because otherwise you probably would.
Yeah, absolutely. It's so I'm in my 19th year of business, and it's so seasonal. I've just, we've just been through a spring clean again in my business, and it's because we also evolve as humans, and what was working 2 years ago may not work anymore. And so, we need to remain connected to that purpose. So for the listeners, how do we find that purpose for our business?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think some people kind of very strongly have a sense of purpose. They just maybe haven't found the right avenue or confidence to step into it. But for others, it's a bit of a learning process over the course of our life to start to figure it out. And I've seen this with many of my clients, that, they start out in a diversity of different kinds of jobs. None of them, are sort of bred as a CEO and then end up at the top of the tree. Mainly they're in, some kind of professional role you know, a lot of them I've had nurses and massage therapists, but they go on to lead industries, you know, that kind of thing. And a lot of the time, from what I see, it comes from working in a field and seeing that something could be done better. And there's just this sense of no one seems to be doing anything about this. So I want to do something about it. I can see that we could change this and help people more. So, and it's not always in an altruistic sense. I see this also in business, where really dysfunctional industries, where somebody will say, okay, I can see a better way and I'm going to lead the industry into that better way. But really, you can just start by looking back over the history of your life and the kinds of things that you were drawn to as a child, the kinds of things that you naturally excelled at. And perhaps, you know, there's been comments made in your performance reviews or those sorts of things where people said, you're really good at this. And I know for me, one of the clues, other than my natural compulsion to work on things that were solving the problems, one of the things I noticed was that when I was in meetings in branding and marketing work, I seemed to have this really deep emotional connection to the customer. I could articulate the world of the customer in a way that no one in the room seemed to do. And it was only later in my life that I discovered that I was quite empathic. I just had an ability to connect with people, but that has a really, really important role in business and marketing strategy, because you can't connect with people, you can't provide solutions for them. So it was just one of those things. So that's what I suggest people start with, and just see what lights them up, see what makes you feel like you want to get out of bed in the morning and it's worth your time.
Yeah, great. Can you give us some examples of, you know, either your purpose or clients' purposes and things, just to give us some concrete examples of, you know, how it might show up or what it might look like?
Sure. I had one client who, I can give you many. Well, one of them was a therapist working in alternative health, and she had this awesome idea to launch a platform outside of the health insurance industry that would enable members to connect with practitioners in a mutually advantageous way, without all the, you know, shenanigans that are going on from the health insurance industry and the government that are inhibiting people's access to that industry. It was a brilliant idea, and it just came from her frustrations as a practitioner, being able to serve clients the way she wanted, seeing them not getting rebated the way that they should have been. And she was a dynamic kind of personality, and she just went, screw it, I reckon we can do better. I'm going to do something about this. Another guy was he worked in the construction industry, and what he described to me was deeply dysfunctional, in that there was a real lack of teamwork, communication and strategic planning at the beginning of projects. And so what would happen is everyone would just come in and do their bit, and at the end they'd find where all the problems were and then just kind of yell at each other until somebody offered to pay for it, which was just so ridiculous. And he could see very clearly that you could save a lot of time and money and stress just by bringing a more strategic and team-orientated process into this part of the construction industry.
Oh gosh, I'm just going to have to comment on that, Amanda, because we built a house in 2012, and wow, did I see the dysfunction in action.
Yes, it's like, I mean, I don't say this in a feminist way, but if ever there was an industry that I've come across that would benefit from gender diversity, it is that one.
Yes.
Seriously, you know, and so these are the things. It's, for me, it seems like a lot of my clients, they just start to hit upon something that's basically common sense. I think a lot of what is purpose driven is common sense that's not actually happening in the world today. And somebody puts their hand up and says, I'm going to be someone who's going to do something about it.
Yeah. So it's kind of taking that, like you have a frustration, or you see that something is just not as good as it could or should be, but then taking that step. Like, does it take a certain kind of person to actually follow through on that? Because a lot of us get pissed off and frustrated with shit all over, you know, every day.
Maybe it does. I think it probably depends on your threshold for watching and not acting. I know for me, I'm a person who I can't tolerate that for very long. I have to do something about it. And for me, I was very social service driven as a kid, and very empathetic towards other people. And that morphed into a career in marketing, working with World Vision. And then I went into the food industry. Basically, I saw a lot of things that could have been done better in the food industry. Um, and eventually realized that at that point in my life, I was too small a cog in the wheel to really affect change the way that I wanted to. And so I left, and I couldn't find any jobs that I wanted to do. So I thought, I'm going to have to make my own job. And I started my company, and I just started contacting the people that I knew and said, hey, I'm available. Can I help you? Particularly people that inspired me and I felt were starting to do the work that I wanted to contribute to. And within my first month, I had 4 or 5 clients. But it was about taking a bit of a risk. But it doesn't always have to be a grandiose venture. For some people, it's that, for example, they are working in a corporate job and it's grinding them away, week by week. And they want to have more balance and they want to have more connection, and they want to go and start either a cafe, or they want to become, a practitioner of some sort, or, anything. It doesn't matter. But just something that fulfills them and is more meaningful. And because perhaps they see that people need more help and they want to be part of the way of helping. Yeah. So, it doesn't have to be a huge venture. It can be a small venture, but the main idea is that it means something to you, and you go to bed at night feeling happy with how you spend your time, your precious time in the world.
Yeah. Yeah, so true. And then on the flip side of that, if it's not something that's profitable, then it's not going to be sustainable, because the reality is most of us have bills to pay.
That's right.
And, mortgages or rent to pay and all of those things. We need to put food on the table. So how do we then take that purpose and make it profitable?
Good question. I think it involves doing a bit of strategic thinking. A lot of people just kind of either amble their way into what they're doing. I did it too. I didn't really know what I was doing when I started. I didn't even know how to write an invoice when I started. But
I at least knew that because I did accounting and finance at uni.
Oh, right. You had a head start.
And I did the bookkeeping for my family's business when in my teenage years. So I had a little bit of that.
I should have known you. I was like, because entrepreneurship 12 years ago when I started Brand Savvy, entrepreneurship wasn't the thing that it is now. And I said to, I think my mum at the time, I was like, is there a book? She's had a business before. Is there a book where I can learn like how to start a business? And she's like, I don't think so. I think you just have to figure it out. I was like, oh, that sounds really hard. I'm going to make all these mistakes. But, but one way or another, it doesn't really matter how you start. In terms of the making it profitable, growing it, making it sustainable, some people are, like me, they're kind of, they're lucky. They just hit the ground running and the business is going well for a few years until it's not. And it doesn't mean that you've made a mistake. It's just that things change in business and you have to learn how to read the signs and how to manage that appropriately. And that's what strategic business management is. And so in terms of making purpose profitable, it's sitting down and actually doing the work of looking at what your actual goals are and being clear about what they are. A lot of the time we think we are, but when we actually go to write them down, we're like, what am I doing anyway? Making money, helping people? I don't know. And then it's about actually doing the proper business thinking. So you need to work out what your position is in the market. What do you actually stand for? What can customers expect from you? And so that, when I work with clients, it's about looking at what's going on with their competitors, not to be, paranoid about what everybody else is doing, because that's not helpful, but more just to be aware of, if I'm a customer and I'm surveying my options, what are my options and how is everyone presenting themselves? how do they communicate the value that they offer, and just being aware of where you sit in that, and particularly being able to understand what your point of difference is. So why should somebody come to you, and how is what you offer different or better than what else is out there, and making sure that the message about that is really clear. So that's part of it. The next part is about understanding your tribe. So given the purpose that you have, who are the people that are going to vibe with that? Because there's no point trying to sell something to someone who doesn't connect. So, for example, Renee, you being a vegan, if I make small goods, there's no point me trying to sell them to you because you're going to be repulsed by that. And so, it would be a waste of my time and my advertising money. So I have to be really clear. If you argue, and I'm a vegetarian, but I don't know why I picked this.
It makes a really good point, Amanda.
It makes a point. It's clear. It's very polarized. So, but here's the thing. Let's say that you have a passion. You come from an Italian family. You grew up making sausage with your grandpa. You've got a huge passion for it. It means family. It means authenticity. You love to nourish other families with beautiful homemade small goods. And that's your purpose. And you want to start a shop and you want to teach people how to do this. And, that could be your thing. So the thing is, you've got to connect with people who are passionate about food. And they're passionate about slow food and culture, maybe Italy, and bringing tradition into their families. And then it's about finding where those people hang out and connecting with them and explaining the value, the purpose, the reason that you do what you do, and helping them to step into that as a way, bringing that into their family. So that's just one example, but we don't sell it to vegans because that would be bad. That would not work.
We also
and you probably get some pretty nasty comments on your Facebook page. So, it's just about being smart and basically fishing where the fish are. And the thing that you realize is that, particularly if you felt like a fish out of water in your career, and you start to actually follow the things that you're passionate about, and that expression of follow your bliss, you'll start to connect with more people that are also passionate about the things that you are, and you'll discover that you're not that strange. And in actual fact, there's a whole world of people that love the things you love and they want to buy from you. But you've got to do that work to really understand them and the right motivators in order to connect with them. So that's the second part. And the third part is the offer. So what is it that, given that customer's world and what they're trying to do, what is it that within your values and your desires of how you want to run your business, you can provide to them that's going to help solve their problems? So it sounds simple, but it can take a little bit of time sometimes to get that right, to test different ideas and see how people respond. But you can always, particularly if you start building a social media community or something, you can put those ideas out there and see how people react to them, if there's a demand for it, and then trial it and grow it from there, as I know you've done with your business.
Yes.
So
it's a constant journey of trial and error, Amanda.
It is. But you know what? Just as a quick aside, I'm just going to finish that thought and say that's like, I call that the golden triangle. And we'll come back to the golden triangle, because I was just going to say that there's a thing, particularly with entrepreneurial types, where basically it's human nature that once we've mastered something, we want to evolve past it. Like, we're only interested in something while we haven't mastered it and we love the challenge. And then once we have, it's like, okay, I'm done with that. What's next?
Yeah.
And I have done the same thing. That's exactly what I've done with my business. I've grown and evolved, which is why I'm now moving into some new directions. But it's just normal to feel like that. And that's the whole creative process of life. We're not meant to stay stuck in one place forever.
Yeah, absolutely. Seasons in business.
That's right.
Or also known as a way to justify Renee's self-sabotage strategy.
Slight ADHD, just get a little bit bored.
Oh, look, shiny object. Oh, I'm evolving.
That's right, you're evolving. You're just a fast learner.
Yeah, fail forward fast. All right, take us back to the golden triangle before
So
we
back to the
turn this
golden
into a
triangle.
therapy
So
session for Renee.
that's our triangle. So kind of what I want you to picture is, so you've got market position, you've got tribe, and you've got offer inside your golden triangle of profitable, purpose-driven business. And around that, you've got basically wow factor. You need to communicate this in a way that really connects with people. And what I find for a lot of people in purpose-driven businesses is that they're trying to communicate something that is better than what's already out there. And a lot of the time, whoever they're talking to doesn't really know that a better option exists. So the process of marketing, the strategy, is all about education. So it's really something, it comes up in every strategy that I do, because we're trying to communicate an idea that people don't already understand. So as a purpose-driven business owner, one of the most important things that you need to master is like patience and compassion, because it will take people time. She's smiling if you can't see this. Because it takes people time to come up to speed with what you know, because the chances are you've been thinking about what you do for decades. Like you've been.
Why does the whole world not understand how much
Why
they
don't they
models
get
in
it?
their business?
Why are they idiots? I know everything. You should know it too. You know, that doesn't get you very far in a commercial sense. It's really important to understand that people often want to learn, but you need to slow it down and take it back to the starting point where they are, and gradually tell them the things that they need to know, so that they can come up to speed with where you are, and they can actually understand the value of what it is you're trying to sell or communicate to them. And I've seen this a lot, where people just get very frustrated and they take the rejection personally, and it's not personal. It's just that people are busy and their times, their attention span is limited. And you've got to find, this is where the wow factor comes in, you've got to find a compelling way to actually penetrate that and communicate a message. So a lot of your role, if you're purpose driven, if you're a thought leader or anybody like that, is about teaching.
Yeah.
So, that's basically what you've got to start to think about.
Yes.
And how you can communicate this to them in a way that's going to get them excited and make them want to do what you have to offer.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Which now, you've kind of touched on something that I care deeply about, because if we're going to educate our audience, having a signature system actually is massively beneficial, right?
Totally, it is. And I mean, this is why I'm such a fan of your work, because as Renee knows, I had been looking for 3 years for something to help me, make sense of all the stuff in my head before I met her. And finally she came along and I was like, oh my goodness, thank God, there's an answer. And it's true, because particularly, a lot of people that are communicating a purpose-driven idea, there is kind of a formula to it that they need to teach people. And so having a signature system is an awesome way to make it easier and clearer to do that, particularly if you're in professional services. So yes, you know that I'm a big fan of your work, and I would recommend it to pretty much any client coming through the doors.
Brilliant. Thank you. All right. So coming back to what we're talking about in the purpose-driven businesses, if you could give our audience one piece of advice that they take away, something they go and do today, this week in their business, what would it be?
I think it would be to get out there more. I see a lot of people that are thinking about what they want to do, but they're not actually acting on it enough. So I think actually really connecting with what you're doing and finding an inspiring way to get out there more and get it in front of more people is what's needed. That's what gives you the confidence to keep going and to realize that people need to hear from you and to keep growing your business and to keep moving forward. So get out there. That's my piece of advice.
That's your advice. Okay. So if you were to tell me right now, what would getting out there look like for me?
What we're getting out there? Well, I think, you know what I think if I'm
I'd love to
completely
know
honest, if I'm putting my consultant hat on right now.
Yes.
Okay.
Do that.
Here's what I think. I think that your approach to the signature system is very practical in its benefits. I think that there is an opportunity for you to connect more to people on an emotional level. So the frustration that they feel when they don't know how to communicate, all that gold that's sitting inside them, the loss that it is to the world that they're, what they have to offer isn't getting out there. Being able to speak to that deeper calling, that deeper need, and then all the benefits that come with that, of obviously being able to lead the kind of life that they want, to be able to better support their family or their goals. So I think there's like a deeper layer of emotional connection. And really why that's important, because I think your system is incredible. And for somebody like me who in some ways can err to the emotional side, I have my moments where I'm very pragmatic and businessy, but I err to the emotional creative side. I need that kind of structure that's more practical and benefits driven at times. But really, in terms of purchasing decision making, people make decisions emotionally, not in their head. It comes from their feelings. So when you can connect with people at a feeling-based level and then back it up with the rational information that they need to feel confident about the purchase,
yes,
that is what supercharges any marketing process. Both are needed.
Yes. So now I'm thinking, okay, so I need to get more emotional in my Excite model, that's the storytelling one, which I can totally be using to tap into those emotions. So, okay, I'm going to upgrade my storytelling with my Excite model.
Yeah. And even, the success model, when you speak to that and you're speaking about how good it feels to have achieved those benefits, that's also great. But it actually comes into every stage. So, I'm thinking of the yes model.
The yes model is the benefits, yes.
Sorry. Because each of them matters. So the success model is about what you have to master.
Yeah.
So at an emotional level, that's the part of us that is looking for clarity, that just wants to know, when you've been feeling confused and you don't actually know what's required of you to get the thing you're trying to get, when somebody goes, you just have to do this, this, and this, master this. Oh, it's such a relief because So, that's the emotional state of the success. And the educate model, that's the emotional state of relief of knowing what to do at a step-by-step level. So, that's how you can kind of expand upon it and make it richer for people.
Yeah, beautiful. Thank you. And I hope all my Authority Accelerators are listening to that awesome advice on presenting your models and injecting more emotion into it. So thank you so much, Amanda. If people want to find out more about who you are and what you do, where can they go?
They can visit my website, which is brandsavvy.com.au.
Awesome. All right, Amanda, I hear you've got a little something for our audience. What have you got?
Absolutely. If anybody would like to learn more about this, you can jump on my website and there's a free training where I actually will go in and tell you everything about the process that I use to help a small town underdog to win Australia's biggest marketing award. It's basically a story of how to turn your purpose into profit and disrupt your market. So jump on there and watch that. It doesn't take long. That
sounds awesome. So we just go to your website and click on the free training and a little bit will be there.
Absolutely.
Awesome. Thank you. So that's brandsavvy.com.au. Thanks, Amanda.
For all the downloads and links mentioned in this episode, head to shareyourpassion.com.au.